Well, it is the weekend, and being the weekend, that means we go out to California, USA, and talk to Michael Snyder about how come like that with the movies. How you doing,
Boy,
Michael?
your guess is as good as mine.
Really?
No, actually, it isn't. No, I actually go. Never mind. I go to the movies, so you don't have to. I'm the guy. I'm the sacrificial lamb.
You're the one who does it, huh?
It's a slow time right now in movie land, but I'm still out there. I'm on the front lines, buddy.
Right.
Speaking of which, here's one that kind of sucker punched me, and I thought was pretty damn good. It's called Frontera, and it's a bilingual movie because it's all about the border between Arizona and Mexico and the people that are there dealing with illegal immigration and various other problems. And it stars the great Ed Harris as a former sheriff whose wife finds herself in trouble while riding their land. And while out there, she encounters a couple of, shall we say, transients who are coming north to get a little work, but they're crossing the border there illegally, and trouble ensues. What ends up happening is that our hero, quote unquote, Ed Harris, a grizzled rancher now, has to join up with the new sheriff to solve a killing, and they target an illegal immigrant. It's a very dark and truthful and well-acted film that exposes this difficult, gritty, kind of under-the-radar situation on the Mexican border. And all this stuff is exacerbated by racism and class disparity, poverty, predatory criminal behavior. The coyotes are not necessarily to be trusted. But Eva Longoria and Michael Pena play a husband and wife on the Mexican side of the border. And, of course, Amy Madigan takes the opportunity to play her real-life husband's wife on the Rancho Americano side. Anyway, I thought Frontera was a very well-made, very well-directed film. Director Michael Berry helmed the thing, and I recommend it. And I think it's going to be a good thing to watch on video, too. Not everything does necessarily require that you go to a movie theater, but I did think it was pretty damn cool. God Help the Girl is set in Glasgow, Scotland, and it's a musical. And these things are kind of, mixed bag when you get them. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. And the contemporary musical in film is certainly a rarity. You get jukebox musicals like Across the Universe that used all those Beatles songs in the service of some kind of 60s era story adapted seemingly from the musical Hair, but nobody talks about that. But this movie is contemporary, and it's with the direction of indie pop singer, songwriter, musician Stuart Murdoch, who was one of the singers in Belle and Sebastian. And it's a coming-of-age drama, and it talks about a girl and shows the life of a girl named Eve who starts to write songs to deal with her emotional problems. I totally enjoyed watching it, and it had a little first-time filmmaker obviousness and got a bit twee at times, as the people in the UK say, but it was definitely sweet. And embarrassingly enough, I'm fond of the manic pixie dream girl character model. So there was a lot of appeal to Emily Browning, who was in Sucker Punch and a few other films. She performs very, very well as the central figure here. God Help the Girl. It kind of reminded me a little of the Scottish pop rock of Camera Obscura, and a lot of the music sounded, very much of that timeless pop that people kind of come out of their holes to see, and you never even hear it on the radio, but people still love it. My reaction was mixed to positive. God Help the Girl. Nice performances across the board, and very sweet film, I thought. Now on the downside of things, there is a, let's call it a horror film, because it got a little horrible in places. Innocence is all about a father sending his teenage daughter to an exclusive Manhattan prep school after her mother dies. School's even more exclusive than anyone can imagine, anyone other than someone who's seen Twilight, Harry Potter, Carrie, Rosemary's Baby. I mean, all I can say is certain factions at the school have a very freaky agenda, and that young love and teen sex are not mutually exclusive, and that might not be such a bad thing. Sorry to be arcane about it. I thought it was okay for a fledgling director on a small budget. Innocence has some decent actors on hand, like Kelly Riley, an Irish girl who was just in Calvary and plays an American here. Linus Roach, who usually plays a creep, is the dad here. A few other familiar faces. Not as scary creepy as I would have hoped, though. Innocence, not even a bargain matinee recommendation from me on this one. Okay, Wetlands is something I know you're not going to see, but I thought was very, very good. It's a very droll and modern German film about Helen, who is an 18-year-old girl obsessed with her body and its various functions, especially, we'll call it, in the southern regions, and I mean southeast and southwest. Her parents are not the best parents in the world. By a long shot, they're divorced, and she'd like to bring them back together. And then, as luck would have it, she ends up in the hospital after how can I put this delicately, a shaving accident. And she makes a connection with a young male nurse. As far as coming-of-age movies go, this is really a coming-of-age movie. Let's just call it very visceral, a lot of secretions, and when you get past the goo, it's pretty smart and inspiring. And the actress playing Helen is like a very young Meg Ryan thing, and that's a good thing in this movie. I guess Meg Ryan pre-plastic surgery. I thought it was worth seeking out. Again, it's entitled Wetlands. Thunder in the House of Magic is a pretty disappointing animated film that was apparently financed by Belgian film money, and it's about a young cat who's abandoned in a suburban neighborhood and finds himself in a very magical living situation with toys and little creatures that kind of come to resent or befriend him. And it has so many familiar visual images and so many familiar plot points, and it just sort of, the animation was not that inspired. Thunder in the House of Magic. Kids may like it. You may want to rent it down the road, but I was not blown away. Quickly to catch up for the previous week, As Above, So Below is kind of an atmospheric horror movie where a young archaeologist, kind of cute too, decides that she's going to find out where the Philosopher's Stone is buried under the streets of Paris, and goes into the catacombs with some French kids and with an old boyfriend of hers, and all hell breaks loose. I mean, literally, all hell breaks loose. Kind of atmospheric. It's a found footage movie. Not great, but I think a better film and more interesting to me than Innocence. And again, bargain matinee material. The Congress is a pretty interesting film with Robin Wright starring as a version of herself in the future, agreeing to preserve her digital likeness for future Hollywood projects, and in the aftermath of the process, complications, personal, artistic, and familial, ensue. Really interesting film, really cool film. It turns into an animated movie from live action and kind of shifts back and forth, and Harvey Keitel plays her manager, Paul Giamatti, a doctor, Danny Houston, kind of a studio head who's moving into this digital capture realm. John Hamm is involved. It's not going to be to everyone's taste, but I thought it was very, very ambitious and very smart, and kind of dealt with an issue we're all dealing with. Who owns the digital likeness of stars, and who owns your digital likeness, for that matter? Ari Folman is the director, and it was adapted by Folman and inspired by a Stanislaw Lem novella, and he's a pretty well-known Russian sci-fi writer for many, many years. And let's wrap up by saying that I was disappointed in the adaptation of Elmore Leonard's novel, The Switch. It's called The Life of Crime, or Life of Crime. It stars Jennifer Aniston as a disgruntled wife who is kidnapped by a couple of, I guess kind of low-life types, but John Hawkes and Mos Def play them, and they're the best thing about the movie. And then they find out that the husband, who's kind of an arrogant real estate type, a developer, is going to dump her and doesn't care whether she's kidnapped. Will Forte is in this thing. Tim Robbins plays the husband.
Doesn't this sound a lot like that movie with Bette Midler? Remember that years ago? I mean, it's almost the same plot.
Exactly, and I think they're all taken. Well, this is officially an adaptation of The Switch, which is a much better book than this movie is. There are moments, but Jennifer Aniston isn't quite right for the role of the disaffected housewife. John Hawkes is wonderful. Mos Def, very good. Robbins doesn't give a bad performance. Will Forte, he's supposed to be comic relief, and I wasn't buying him. And Isla Fisher plays kind of a gold-digging type that the Tim Robbins character is with. I hope this would be better than it was. I'm a big Elmore Leonard fan. This is not one of the great adaptations of his work. Life of Crime. If you like his stuff and you're a completist, you might want to look at it. One more note. I know you're interested in Hollywood history. Alex, The Last of Robin Hood is kind of a disappointing and produced by Lifetime and seemingly like a TV movie, biographical drama about the dark latter days of Errol Flynn, the swashbuckling Hollywood star, notorious ladies' man, and alcoholic, who takes on an affair with an aspiring young actress. Kevin Kline is absolutely great. as Errol Flynn. Susan Sarandon as the mother of the young actress is very good. Dakota Fanning as the actress is very good. This is straight out of the scandal rags of the 50s and 60s. And in fact, Beverly Adlin is a real person, the actress that Dakota Fanning is playing. And I enjoyed watching this film, but it was kind of a guilty pleasure. And it's Kevin Kline's performance that makes it go beyond a Lifetime movie. The Last of Robin Hood, again, video. What do you got in TV? What are you watching, man?
Yeah, it's still, I mean, it's not much. This is summer. This is the doldrums. But I've been watching The Strain, which I think is just terrific, So. And you got Boardwalk Empire starting this week again for its final season.
That's good. I mean, I'm excited to see it, and I guess, don't overstay your welcome at the party. The November Man, Pierce Brosnan as the Bourne Pensioner, by the way. I didn't mind that movie. That was okay, the espionage film. I wanted to just mention it because it was pretty cool. If you like him, it's not a great film. These are truly the doldrums.
Yeah, it's the doldrums for television, too. I mean, we're about ready to suddenly be inundated with all kinds of television, but, that being said, right now it's pretty dead. I mean, I was watching Tyrant, which wasn't bad. I was watching, Of course, I'm watching The Strain, which I love. It's the only thing I really look forward to every week now.
Are you off Manhattan? You're no longer enjoying
no, I'm watching Manhattan. That's another pleasure for me.
I like that. I enjoy Garfunkel and Oates, believe it or not. I've been getting a big kick out of it. I like those girls. I think they're funny. And after seeing, and it's out there on Twitter, after seeing the pilot to Selfie, which is the Karen Gillan, John Cho romantic sitcom, wacky romantic. Oh man, like watching Garfunkel and Oates is like watching Laurel and Hardy by comparison.
Well, I didn't find that the Karen Gillan show was that bad. I mean, I think she translated very well to an American accent and kept all
I love her. Yeah,
all the quality that she has. Whereas David Tennant, if you watch him in Grace Point, you're going to say, "Is this the same guy who was Doctor Who?" Because some of these actors just don't translate well to America. They don't do a good enough American accent, or they feel kind of castrated when they do an American accent. But she was terrific, and I think I don't think the pilot was bad. But by the end of the pilot, they pretty well resolved the problem. And I'm saying, you're going to make this go for another 3 years?
That was one of the major difficulties. I love John Cho, by the way, who is really
the show
great in Sleepy Hollow.
In and of itself wasn't bad. But where do you go from there? Yeah. It's My Fair Lady, and at the end, Henry Higgins becomes less of a snob, and she becomes more of a lady. And so what do you need to do beyond the first episode?
Well, the one thing I will say about it, it's not a remake of something in the UK, which unfortunately Grace Point rather, is basically Broadchurch, almost, down to having the same lead actor.
It is Broadchurch.
Yeah.
But anyway, I mean, the only other thing I would suggest is if you have Amazon Prime, they're running a couple of their pilots now. It's pilot season. And I watched The Cosmopolitans, which is, I haven't decided whether I like it or not, but it's interesting. It's worth watching.
That's Whit Stillman's thing. He's the guy who did Barcelona and...
It takes place in Paris, and it's about a bunch of expats all hanging out together. And I thought, okay, I mean, I'd be willing to find out what happens to these people in a second episode.
I really liked the thing they did last quote-unquote pilot season about the orchestra conductor. I thought
that's going to go to full series, Mozart in the Jungle. But
cool stuff.
But the thing is that the other shows, Hand of God with... what's his name from Sons of Anarchy? The guy who always plays the Beast in Beauty and the Beast.
Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman. And I couldn't get past 15 minutes of it. Just couldn't. It was just dreadful. So.
Well, it's all a crapshoot, man. And right now we're getting a lot of crap. Yeah. There you go.
But at least we get to vote on what gets made and what doesn't get made. Anyway, thank you so much, Michael, once again.
Sure thing. Sure thing. You guys can check me out at Twitter, at Culture Blaster, or the Michael Snyder's Culture Blast Facebook page.
Yeah.
And we'll be back, hopefully, with more good stuff next week.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. Have a good week.